agenda is...
This meeting is being recorded.
There we go. I think we all heard that. Loud and clear. Yeah, so firstly, minutes of the last meeting, which I know Adam's sent out, and I believe they were also attached to the this appointment, and I'm sure everybody has read through every single word of them. So if we're to ask, is everybody happy with them? Have we missed anything off? That's exactly the response I was expecting to that question. But yeah, I've flicked through and it all looks great. So thank you to Adam for keeping on top of all of that. It's all on there. But on the last meeting, there were a few actions, which Adam, I think they were all had your initials next to them.
Isn't that just fantastic?
Indeed, yeah. So just looking.
Do you want me to quickly run through them?
If you're happy to, yeah. Saves me reading them out.
Certainly. There are some cybersecurity documents that I had to get from Adam, our cybersecurity lead. I've got those and I'll circulate those alongside some accompanying documents to the last meeting's presentation from BSI on Type 5 guidance, which will also be circulated. And I will try and get in contact with Tolga from BSI, who presented, to also get his full presentation put on our website and circulated as well. But I'm yet to hear back from him, but it could be on my side to chase him. So not that many actions this week, which was absolutely wonderful. And we move on.
Brilliant. Okay. Then yeah, we've actually got two presentations to get through today, so I'm not going to waffle for long.
I mean, to be fair to Tim, he wouldn't have said that like that. But
so I'm yeah, going to move straight on to the first presentation. So I'm happy to welcome Saab, who's the Chief Technical Officer of Virtually Informed. Very well-known gentleman and experienced in this particular area, but I'll leave you to do the introductions and hand over to yourself, Saab.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm the Chief Technical Officer at Virtually Informed. I've had lots of various roles, and simultaneously, because what I tend to do is sort of several part-time roles at the same time. So I've had Chief Information Security Officer roles and other related roles as well, technical roles. I'm going to share my presentation now. So let me get that organized. And right. Tell me if you can see that.
All good.
Yep, so all good.
Good. Okay, great. So make sure I'm showing the right window, and I've got the cursor on the right screen as well. Yeah, good, excellent. So background, mainly it's in cybersecurity, been involved in software development, management consultancy. I've not been involved in installation or hardware development. So there are many gaps that you guys, maybe some of you in the call, have got far better experience. I will do my best to answer some of the questions. And I have been connected with those fields, but not on a daily basis like some of you may have been involved. Way back in 2005, I researched into the vulnerabilities of network CCTV cameras, way before they were called IoT devices. And I was amazed when I looked at them that there were so many vulnerabilities. Now in networking, we have this model called the Osi model. Basically, it's 7 different layers between the sort of the wire, the copper wire that goes from where you are through to the other end, wherever the other end might be. And I found vulnerabilities in all of those layers, and I was very, very surprised. And I went and complained to anyone and everyone who would listen. And as you can imagine, way back in those days, nobody was interested. Nobody wanted to listen. They're just, when I spoke to vendors, and this is CCTV vendors, they'd say, well, we leave the security to the network layer. What they didn't understand was that the network layer they were talking about was only one of the 7 layers I was talking about. Anyway, so then I looked at other devices as well that sit on the network that were also unattended, that had similar vulnerabilities, that included alarms, it included HVAC systems and so on. I have since then been involved and contributed to several guidance documents and standards documents related to IoT, smart buildings, smart cities. And I'm not speaking on my in my capacity as sort of an executive board member of the IoT Security Foundation, although I am on the board and I do a lot of work for them. I'm here speaking in my own capacity. Basically, I'm making sure that if I say something, I want you to know it's my views and not those of the IoT Security Foundation or of the Smart Building Group or of any of the other groups that I sit on or represent. On my first slide, I am a representative of the BSIA, also onto the BSIA Cybersecurity Product Assurance Group, the CISBAG as it's fondly called, and I'm also on the ISACA International Emerging Trends Task Force, which does lots of things as well. So I'm not actually speaking on any of those apart from in my own capacity. So anything I say, it is my own. That's about it. I think that I need to cover there. So in terms of the BSIA document, this is what it looks like. It's a couple of years old now, and it is expanding and it is evolving. There is feedback that's coming from those that were involved, as well as anyone that's been involved in using it and so on. The CISBAG group has been chaired in the past by Glenn. Glenn has led the group, and these are some of the organisations involved. My involvement has been through the IoT SF Smart Built Environment Group, and these are some of the other organisations. The last two in particular, the NSI is the National Security Inspectorate, and the SSIAB, they are groups of installers, and they are CCTV installers. And between them, they cover any certified installers in the UK, basically, when it comes to CCTV and burglar alarms, as far as I know. I did feel privileged to be involved in this group of people. I know that they were pleased to have me on board from the cyber expertise, but I did learn a lot from the group in terms of how you write codes of practice in the right way. And my way and my thinking, although I've been involved in the past, as I said, in lots of different standards and so on, coming from a cyber background, I wanted to try and include as much as I could and raise the level quite a lot when it came to cyber. However, the only way this was going to work, and I was brought back to ground by Glenn and the rest of the team, was that if we have the right baby steps, they'll be taken on board. If we make it too hard and too high level, no one's going to come on board, and these will just be a set of documents and guidance notes that no one actually ever uses. And if it was enforced on them, they didn't say it in these words, but it was obvious that had I pushed what I wanted, we could have had a lot of people leaving the industry, because that's not what they got in for. They didn't get in to do cybersecurity, although cybersecurity is something that they're going to have to do. They don't want to be having to do as much as I would have insisted had I had my way. But fortunately, there were a lot of smart people involved who brought me back down to earth and said, the way to do this is to bring it in slowly. Once they get used to those, we can expand from there onwards. And that was the right approach. So I have to take my hats off to those guys. As I said, I really did learn a lot from all of them. And that's why I like to make sure they are mentioned. The background to the code, there had been a version out already for about 2 years before I was involved. And when I got involved, it was the early stages of this last version that we had, which has been out now, I think, for about 18 to nearly 24 months. And it has been improving over the years. It has got a few more elements of cyber and slightly more refined than before. The key members, as I said, come from and cover CCTV and alarm systems. Both have their own training schemes, which are accredited and governed by the appropriate bodies. My understanding is that they are the mandatory elements when it comes to some of these things that are in there are governed by the police, or one of the police committees. I'm not sure which one. This is beyond my scope of knowledge, but I have been informed that it is governed by them. It is being considered by other industry groups, and who are installing IoT devices. There is also a document that was worked on, which is a manufacturer's document. It is available out there, the current version. That's the background to it. So in terms of what's in there, I'll cover in a short, I think, slide or two. Basically, the introduction to the whole document, it is around safety and security systems that have a connection to internal and external networks and have an increased exposure to malicious attacks. And that's key. And to assure the achievement of effective cybersecurity requirements, that these types of systems are appropriately designed, installed, commissioned, and maintained. It is intended that the code of practice will assist in providing confidence throughout the supply chain, promoting secure connection of products, services, delivering client assurance regarding connected solutions. Now, that is key to the enterprises and the security teams and the cybersecurity teams within the enterprises. That's a big concern to many of them. The fact that this is a key part of what it's trying to do is very, very important from a cyber perspective. The code of practice will assist the supply chain in their duty of care, and that's great. That's really what we're looking for. The scope, very important. It covers and provides recommendations on how to minimize the exposure to digital sabotage of installed devices, application systems for the protection of safety, security, and utilized networks. It provides cybersecurity recommendations for the design, planning, operations, installation, commissioning, and maintenance of installed devices, applications, systems. It is intended to be used by organizations, stakeholders involved in the installation, commissioning, maintenance, and so on. And the following are not considered to be within the scope, which are things like network monitoring, contingency planning, installed devices, systems, no cyber exposure, with no cyber exposure, manufacturing supply chain vulnerabilities, and social engineering. Now, what's not in scope is always just as important as what is in scope. And that's very good, very important, because from the installer's point of view, it narrows it down to those things that they need to care about, not making it quite clear that anything that they don't need to sort of understand or be worried about really should be going on to other people, other professionals who are there to deal with this, and also those people that are employing installers. Actually, they know quite clearly as well that you can't try and put the blame onto installers. That is key, because I know that many years ago when I was looking at CCTV and I was looking at installers, you know, you'd be lucky if, and I'll say lucky, I do mean extremely lucky, if anyone actually understood the networking elements when they were installing network CCTV. The MD of the IoT Security Foundation told me a story where he got a phone call from his wife, who is an administrator in school, where she rang him and said, look, we've got someone installing CCTV. He can't get it to work. And he's asking us, would we take responsibility if he switches a firewall off to make it work? And obviously, John Moore, MD of ITSF, said, no, don't accept that responsibility. That is wrong. And that's the sort of thing that, you know, that some installers many years were doing. And equally the other way around, things that installers weren't responsible for were getting blamed for things that they had never done or touched. But by having what's in and out of scope quite clearly defined is very important. The contents that the document covers, I've put this slide in here. It's fairly straightforward, and the key thing is, if you look at 6.0 or 0.6 on the documentation, that tells you what it is that the installers would need to document, including the roles and responsibilities, a register of those, the backups, the passwords, the updates, the communication plan, and the training record, the nominated person acceptance, maintenance schedule. So all of these things, all the things that anyone needs to do are all quite clearly defined. Now, the great thing is, it's not, when it's all said and done, it's not an extremely onerous list in the way it would have been had someone like me tried to define this. So what the list is quite specific and quite it's quite narrowed down what it is, those things that should and shouldn't be the responsibilities, and how you accept those responsibilities and how you document those responsibilities, both for the customer as well as for yourself, so that everyone knows what has and hasn't been done, and what it is that you touch. So point 9, as you go through handover, acceptance and maintenance, those are absolutely key, so that everyone is quite clear. The appendices again are very simple and very straightforward. Right, let's move on. What the code of practice actually offers is, one, it's a free download. You can use it. It's a clear starting point for anyone involved in doing installations. I say installations, although it's supposed to be for CCTVs. I'm speaking to yourselves. I have spoken to the lighting industry as well. They approached me to see if I could speak to them in the same way I'm speaking to yourselves, and I've spoken elsewhere. Basically about this, because it is a good starting point, and it's a good enough starting point where you can tweak the document and adapt it for yourselves without having to reinvent the wheel. The controls that are covered within the document do cover the 3 key requirements for the upcoming legislation. And that's, again, very important, so that if you're worried about the upcoming legislation, this does cover it adequately. The mature code of practice, which has been reviewed, it's been around for 5 years, so it is a mature document. It's fairly good as far as I'm concerned in its maturity. It will mature further. And it's code of practice which has been implemented, something real that's actually been implemented over the last 2 years, and it has had trained and accredited installers of safety and security devices. So you know that this isn't a document that's pure theory. It is a document that has actually been used out there. It's not an endpoint for installers who wish to specialize. And why I say that is because forever and a day in the cybersecurity industry, we are always looking for how we can bring in other professions who may have an interest, either to step in or to put a foot in the camp and to start expanding their own knowledge. So if there is anyone who has been using these, who would like to, maybe a couple of years down the road, look to a career in doing installations around cyber and expand a bit more, it is a fairly good starting point for those as well. And it is a good starting point for regulators, industries and professional bodies. Right, that's about it. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer those. What I wanted to do was just make you aware of the document and its history, and the fact that it is available and you can use it. It's not something that's just brand new. It is something that's a living document, and it will be updated at some point. I could go on a lot more. As I said, I'm trying to keep it fairly simple to make sure that you understand the baby steps and not going over your heads about things that I'm excited about that perhaps you're not. Back to you.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Saab. Really, yeah, interesting topic and a lot to get from that. So yeah, open up to questions.
Some silence.
There's normally there's silence. Don't worry, it's not a personal thing. There's normally there's silence, and then people slowly start to jump in. So don't worry too much about it. I do have a question myself, which is how accessible is this document for those who do want to reach out and get a copy and digest?
Okay, I will put a link. I'll send a link through, Adam. Yeah, I'll do that. And both documents on the manufacturer's side as well, in case you're thinking that you need to be speaking to the manufacturers at some point. At least you'll have access to both of them, and they are free. I think I didn't even have to register to download it, but it might have changed in the last couple of months. I'm not sure, but even then, registration is fairly simple.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. I notice, David, you've got your hand up if you want to go now.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. It's more of just a comment rather than a question specifically per Saab, just to say that, you know, I've really felt for some years it's so important that the 3 related industries around fire, security, and particularly emergency lighting align, because there are so many commonalities in the issues that we're seeing, particularly around installers and training and this kind of thing then as well. Again, I was discussing this with Adam. I really see an opportunity for, some maybe common core set of processes. There'll be some things that are going to be different, but there are some very, very common core processes, skills, procedures, this kind of thing needed. And the more those three industries can align, I think then everyone's learning from each other. It's more of a common approach from the industry and saves reinventing the wheel. So really, really glad to see Saab presenting this today. And like I said, I hope it's a first step of a wider collaboration across, in particular, these particular trade associations and the very, very similar issues that they're all feeling. Obviously, for quite a few reasons, the security industry and to a certain extent the lighting industry is slightly further ahead. The FIA, because of the nature of, because really of the nature of the products and the issues, always will be the most cautious. But I think there's a lot of really valuable lessons to be learned here. So just really glad to see that initiative. And did I see Stuart from the LIA was on as well? So really good to see again this greater collaboration across the these three important sectors. That's all.
David, if I could quickly go back to that, if that's quite all right. We actually set up a cross-industry cybersecurity group that we need to actually get a meeting booked in for with the lighting industry, the security industry, and ourselves. And that just follows on from one of my comments to Saab that I was hoping to make. When we do make the next revision, it might be great to get our cybersecurity task group involved and make sure this is co-branded. I'm not sure if the lighting industry would also want to jump in on it, just so that we can have that common guidance across our industries.
Yeah, definitely.
Just one other comment I have. I did write an article for the one of the fire publications in August. It was published, and that was around fire alarms, and that's slightly more technical than what the code of practice is about. But it is there, and I can send that link over as well if anyone's interested. But there are so many similarities, and I'm actually doing talks across industries and professional bodies because there are so many similarities. Just to make you aware, the IOTSF does think that this is important, and they're always happy to be involved. The unfortunate thing is that most of the work that they tend to do, I mean 95% of it, is where lots of cybersecurity elements are involved. So if you have got any things that you would like to, I guess, share or promote, they'll be more than happy to work with you, is what I'm saying. But they won't be approaching you. They'll be waiting for you to see how ready you are to do things rather than pushing you, because we know that it's not at the forefront of your mind. We'd be waiting for you to tell us what you'd like to do.
And so also, just to someone who asked the question, where can we get this from? This is on the FIA website as well. There's a link there on the IoT forum homepage. But Saab, you mentioned a few other documents. If you send those to me, I can A, get them added to that page if they're not already on there, and B, send them out to the participants of this group. I know that, sorry, Andy, I know that Mauro raised his hand before I jumped in.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of hands raised. I'm not too sure who was first on there. So we've got, as on my screen, we've got Steve, your hands up.
I'm so glad Steve is here.
Sorry, I wasn't here at the beginning. My apologies, everybody. I was on a call that overran previous to this one, and I couldn't get on at the beginning. But well done, Saab. A great speech, as usual. Yeah, I just wanted to sort of reinforce some of the things that Saab had said more than anything else. I haven't really got a question. I was involved in the authoring of the document that Saab has been talking about. And I think some of the things that's been said is absolutely spot on. I think any industry that's got a supply chain that is similar to ours in terms of you have a manufacturer who supplies through a professional installer who then installs a product or a system. I think the document can work for. So, you know, it might need a little bit of tweaking here and there. There's also a manufacturer's document as well that will support manufacturers in terms of looking to deal with their cyber risk. And the two documents work well together in our supply chain because that's what they were actually built to do. So I think it's great to hear somebody else talking about it because it's usually us. And if you need any information on it, then yeah, please ask. Our website, everything on our website is free anyway. We don't charge for anything. We are looking to revise that document, but it will probably be in the second half of next year. We'll start to have a look at how we need to improve it. So if you're interested in being involved in the redraft and review of that document, then please let me know. We'll open the group up to a wider audience. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Brilliant. Cheers for that, Steve. Really appreciated. Yeah, and I'm sure there will be people wanting to take you up on that offer. Adam, I know you've got your hand up.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, hi, so I just want to say really enjoyed the presentation. Thanks very much for that. I think Adam mentioned I lead the cybersecurity task group for the IoT forum, and I just wanted to say it'd be wonderful if we could maybe get some of your time just to pick your brains. You've got a vast amount of experience there, and I feel like one thing that I'm always amazed by with these topics is just a continuous learning curve. The things that just these discussions and these presentations reveal that there's so much stuff to keep on top of and new developments. So yeah, I think it'd be wonderful if we could have some of your time, and maybe I could send you an invite to the next meeting.
Yeah, more than happy to do so. Thank you.
You very much.
And just for everyone else's reference, I know Steve just spoke. Steve's been involved in the document far longer than I have. I'm just here because I'm from a cyber background, but Steve has got a lot of expertise. He's been supporting the group since it's the document's inception, so he's got the real experience. I'm just here as the cyber spokesperson, that's all.
Well, we appreciate all collaboration. So no, that's brilliant. I know we have got more to move on to, but equally, if anybody else has any other questions, open it up one last time. In which case, yeah, thank you very much, Saab. Fantastic. I know, yeah, Adam will circulate those links that you referenced before, and yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you participating on here. So,
thank you.
Next, I think on the agenda, we've got an update from our different task groups. So we've got 2 task groups active at the moment. So we've got the cyber, which is very apt following Saab's presentation, and we've got the digital logbook. So I can see your camera's on at first, Adam. So I'm going to look towards yourself if you want to give us a bit of an update on your activities.
Sure, thanks, Andy. Yeah, hello everyone. So just a very brief update for this session. So I've just come back recently from paternity leave, so apologies for a bit of a it's been a bit quiet on the cyber task group front, but have been working away in the background. So I've had discussions with Adam and Andy and a few other members. One of the priorities that's been given to us as a task group is to look at the cybersecurity questionnaire, which is going to be the kind of lead-in piece for the maybe a piece of training or some more training support and resources that'll be available for the FIA members. So yeah, so what's been put together so far is a structure for the questions, and some thoughts about how they'll be delivered, the kind of organization of the questions. So the idea, what we want to do that's a bit different is open the questionnaire up to people who consider themselves technical and non-technical within the organization, because I find that a lot of the time these topics, the email comes in and it's got the subject, and then the vast majority of people in an organization sort of feel it doesn't include them, or they might not feel confident enough to engage with it. So just from my own experience, I found that a huge amount of value can be gathered from opening that up to everybody who is part of the organization. There's a whole plethora of documented cases where vulnerabilities have been discovered or even generated by people who don't consider themselves actively in the technical team or technical output of the company. So yeah, that'll be we'll continue to develop that. At the end of the meeting today, be good if we can just agree for the task group members on the call today a next date for the meeting. I did send around a few emails, but I think there's been a few people on holiday and things like that, so be good to get that moving, because I know that Adam's keen to get that progressed. I have reviewed the questions that were sent by the other group that did some work for the FIA. So I think together it's interesting. There's not much overlap, so it's interesting that the angle they've taken is very kind of core cybersecurity questions, and the stuff that I've been researching and we've been doing in the task group is a bit more kind of general, that sort of lead into those. So I think they should complement each other quite nicely. But yeah, we'll hope to have something put in place certainly by by next month. I think that's all the time we'll need. So that's it from me.
Adam, I failed on my Cupid abilities. Carrie Hendricks, where you can see two gentlemen sat around the table. They're the ones that proposed the questions that you just referenced. And so it might be worth staying on the call afterwards and I can introduce you to them.
Lovely, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, it's probably worth just following up on your point about getting a date. If we bring that up just at the end of this meeting, anybody who is currently involved in this hyper task group or ideally wants to be as well, we welcome new members on that. Then just hang around at the end and we'll look at dates for the next meeting on that. Any questions on cyber on that task group before we move forward?
Just a quick banging the recruitment drum. Always looking for new members to join. It'd be great to broaden the participation members of the forum, because we're only as good as the contributions we get from all walks of life. So it's not exclusively technical. I mean, I'm probably one of the least technically qualified members of the task group, so don't feel that is a barrier. all welcome.
Yeah, cheers for that. Thank you. Fully agree.
Sorry, just one comment to make. I agree, and I come from a technical background, and I learned so much more from the group I was involved in on that code of practice. It's not technical experience that counts, it's implementation experience, because the industry you're involved in, the safety experience you have really is far more important than the cyber background that people like me bring. So you do bring a hell of a lot, and people like me learn a lot from yourself. So don't think that just because you're not technical that it's not relevant, because we are dealing, and there are plenty of people who will help on the technical stuff. The experience that you have around safety, absolutely vital. So I'm just seconding what you're saying. I totally agree. Yeah,
thanks.
Technical experience.
Yeah, I realise I'm not I'm not saying that I'm completely clueless, but I think you're absolutely right. It's that learning from doing and having, as you say, implementation expertise. I mean, there's a whole host of things that we've done as a business and the members have done to solve various problems and challenges, which they'll all have different approaches, and I think there's some unique learnings there. So yeah, absolutely, that's the key learning for me is it's important to consider all those learnings.
We're quite lucky in this particular forum because we do have a very broad range of participants and attendees, really, from installation, from manufacture, from technical, from non-technical. So yeah, I agree with all these comments as well. There's plenty to it. You could be on the coal face, but not have necessarily the background. But yeah, definitely relevant. But yeah, unless there's any more on that, we'll move on. And the next task group update is over to yourself, Jason.
Hi, Andy. Good afternoon. Yeah, apologies, I'm gutted actually. I missed Saab's presentation because I had a meeting that overran. So we are recording this, aren't we? So I can watch it back. Brilliant. Yeah. Wonderful. So Jason Hill, for those who don't know me, TRFI Safety, running the Digital Logbook Task Group. We had a really productive meeting last month. I know Simon's on the call. You're waiting for some information to come across from me. It's been really busy mine, so apologies in delay in getting that to you. I'm hoping by our next meeting, which is on Thursday, the 20th of October, we'll have a draft to be able to circulate to every member of the task group. We'll get their comments back on that initial draft for the fact file, and then recirculate it again once those amendments have been made from anyone's comments. And I'd really like to get this either done and dusted by the end of December, or if not early January. So that's the kind of timeline. But it's we've got a good structure now for the fact file. We've got our headers. We know the information we're putting in. So that's where we currently are. It's in a good place. So thank you everyone for their contributions so far.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Cheers for that, Jason. Also, I'm not sure if we're going to save this for AOB, but just following that, just to point out the fact that Jason's kindly volunteered, and congratulations for being accepted and voted to be the vice chair on here. So I massively welcome his support on this, but in general, we want to get some more involvement between pushing, driving the forum forward, and yeah, it's great to have Jason on board on that. So
yeah, thanks Andy. Obviously I'll be looking at getting some other people presenting, so I've got a couple of ideas for people outside of our industry to do some presentations for us to complement all the other presentations we've had previously. So looking forward to getting that organised and helping you out, Andy. So yeah, thank you so much.
Brilliant. Any questions for Jason before we push forward? Fantastic. Okay, brilliant. Cheers for that, Jason. So yeah, next we've got another presentation. We've got two today. So this time I'd like to welcome Ian Vickers, CEO of Maccloud, to give a talk on the future of cybersecurity for the fire industry. So yeah, over to yourself, Ian.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate that. And before I begin, I'd just like to thank Andy and Adam for inviting me to speak today. So I appreciate that. And also thanks, Saab, for setting me up quite nicely for what I'd like to talk about today. So I appreciate that as well. Let me just see if I can share my screen. Okay. Can you see all that? Can you just stick your thumbs up? Yeah, cool.
Yep, all good.
Okay. So most of you on the call probably won't be aware of Maccloud because up until now, up until over the last few years, we've not really been present in the Internet of Things or the fire industry as a sector. But what is becoming quite evident is that the capability that we've been developing as an organization also applies for OT, or operational technology, and in most people speak is IoT, Internet of Things, and it's becoming quite prevalent. The amount of cyber attacks that are now happening across organizations, launching from an IoT perspective, cyber criminals are identifying vast amounts of vulnerabilities that sit in a global environment where they can get connected quite easily from an IP source, seize on an opportunity to do some early surveillance in a company's network, and then set about a ransom attack, or it could be distribution of denial attack, rendering major disruption to an organization across all industries. So we set about as a company in 2017, so we're now 5 years old, but our primary focus is around the development of AI and machine learning, and also recognizing how we can actually help businesses strengthen their capability, both in a proactive sort of process, but also speeding up the capability of detecting issues and potential malware that's sitting in a network, and giving organizations the opportunity to react and remediate those issues as quickly and as swiftly as possible. So today, obviously the headline is the future of cybersecurity for the fire industry, but in essence, what I talk about today for the fire industry is true of any industry. So really, great security starts with complete and continuous visibility of every attack surface. And so when we started out in 2017, our core focus was really IT, information technology. But over 5 years, we've clearly seen evidence in our clients that there is a requirement to include all edge devices that are connected to the internet. So, as I said, our capability and our technology development is all around artificial intelligence and machine learning and data analytics, so that we can give companies greater threat detection capacity and capability, but also allow companies to start building strong processes around implementation. And it was interesting what Saab talked about around writing processes and better standards for all of the different areas, manufacturers and installers aligned. But this is where we see most of the gaps that exist and the opportunity for cyber criminals to seize on an attack opportunity is because of all of those gaps that sit between manufacturer, installers, and then obviously you've got managed service providers and ultimately managed security providers as well. So there's lots of different areas and opportunities in which there will be cracks in processes and systems, and opportunities for cyber criminals to take advantage of things that haven't been done because they've either not been thought through from a complete holistic approach, or they've literally not been dealt with properly at one of those processes or one of those steps, whether that's from manufacturer or installer, and ongoing with managed service providers, and ultimately increased amounts of managed security providers as well. So Maccloud, we currently now have the capability of doing cyber surveillance across infrastructure code, which I can talk about a little bit more if people aren't really au fait with that. Clearly, more people are moving to cloud workloads, so our systems have to do surveillance in cloud environments. Typical IT, AD is Active Directory, and that could be any directory structure, whether it's through AWS, through Microsoft Azure, through Google. We look at surveillancing directories and accounts that have been left open, not closed properly, and so forth. They are easy routes to access a company's environment. OT clearly is massive growing problem, and one that Maccloud's platform will address. Containerization in AWS and other containerized cloud workspaces. Apps, clearly, lots of companies developing application APIs. There are lots of major vulnerabilities that have been exploited through poorly implemented APIs or APIs that haven't been patched. And clearly network resources, switches, hubs, routers, gateways, all of that connectivity piece are all exposed to the internet. So visibility of the modern attack surface. So what does that look like? So I've just really gone through a lot of that, but as you can see visually, it is huge requirement to monitor and to do surveillance across a huge area. So looked at the cloud area, but if you look at OT, we've got OT in industrial environments, critical infrastructure, you've got manufacturing, you've got converged environments, building management systems, energy systems. Clearly, we could have added fire systems and electrical systems and everything else that would be connected to the internet. And then obviously at the bottom, we've got IT, which is where we started out in our development as a business. So what happens in a normal scenario in which a cyber criminal gang or a nation state or whoever that is with an interest to extort and to disrupt is that they will have an initial foothold, and that could have been through any practice. It could be a phishing attack, it could be identifying some weakness in some code and putting in some kind of malware, and that then starts giving the opportunity for the cyber criminal to explore and look at, which is on this visual is lateral movement across the target environment. So once somebody's established a foothold, they can start doing some surveillance around the network and try to better understand what opportunities afford the cyber criminal gang to ultimately put in a major payload, malware, ransom attack, encrypt all the data, and ultimately ask for a huge payout. And nowadays, with some large exploitations, some of the asks are of 30 to 50 million pound asks, so they're not insignificant. And what they will also do is they're more sophisticated cyber criminals today. So they will actually go in and look at what your cyber insurance cover is, which they can go into your systems and have a look at. And then they'll start with that figure straight away. And most businesses now will have cyber coverage of in the millions, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million is not exceptional these days, and more. So clearly it's very lucrative business, and hence why cybersecurity is increasingly becoming more important because of the amount of attacks that are happening on a daily and weekly and yearly basis. Once cybercrime or criminal gang gain privileged access, they can then obviously do more damage to the systems because they have rights to more systems and so forth. And then what they're very clever at doing is evading and hiding their forensic footprints. So they'll go through and try to suppress and hide what activity has gone on in that network and so forth. Then ultimately they'll install code for permanence. And then they'll just keep exfiltrating data up until the time when they've decided that they've had enough information gathered from the network and the company to then launch a ransom attack. A lot of these surveillance activities can go on for 6 months to 8 months before they'll launch a ransom attack as well. Some of them are instantaneous because it's been a phishing attack or it's been a massive broadcast of malware, and then they're just looking for easy targets then to install their encryption. But often, if they're a big enough target, they will do months of surveillance before they do an attack. Gartner has suggested that by 2022, so we're here already, that organizations that use the risk-based vulnerability management methods will suffer 80% fewer breaches. So one of the things that I'll be talking about in my presentation this afternoon over the next few minutes is about how we approach IoT and IT surveillance and monitoring. And we're looking at vulnerability assessments as well. So we use technologies, sophisticated technologies that look at scanning all of the connected devices, which then gives us the opportunity to then look at what vulnerabilities exist in those existing environments. So Maccloud, we see everything, and then we can allow us to predict what matters. Everything, again, as touched on, is managed in the cloud, and what we've created is a cyber exposure platform. So everything that's connected into our cloud platform, we can do scanning, we can look at the vulnerabilities that exist in all of the estate. We then look at what those vulnerabilities look like, and that's often updated by all the manufacturers that we're supporting. Once we've identified where all of the vulnerabilities sit, we can then put out an automated patching regime. Or if there's nothing in the library that we've got or being given to us by the manufacturers, we can actually write a script to download those patches appropriately, or work with the managed service providers or installers should there need to be any downtime for rebooting of systems and so forth. But in essence, that's more or less what we do as a cloud platform. There's huge amounts of information from the business intelligence or business analytics side of things. So once we've started gathering information on a day-by-day basis, we start to obviously identify patterns of activity and patterns of vulnerabilities and so forth. So we can provide significant information advice to our partners or our customers, so that they can better understand and predict any potential vulnerabilities and any potential cyber attacks. We also integrate our information that we've gathered through vulnerability risk management, is that we will then look at surveillance of dark web and deep web activity, then to see if there's any vulnerabilities that are currently being exploited, or if there's any indication of any conversations that are going in the chat rooms, to say if there's any impending attack on any particular vulnerabilities that exist. This is all automated through our AI and machine learning capabilities. So why Maccloud? Well, we're an award-winning AI and machine learning cloud platform. To date, we've won 57 awards in the last 3 years for innovation and excellence. Sort of the kind of awards that we've won are the UK IT Industry Awards. We were nominated as Cloud Security Platform of the Year, and last year we were voted as Cybersecurity Firm of the Year in the FinTech Awards. Our cloud platform is got customers across all sectors. So that's financial services, insurance, manufacturing, and increasingly we're seeing a huge uptake of organizations that have huge assets on IoT and OT environments. What we bring is a singular vision, so market-leading risk-based vulnerability management technology and pioneering cyber exposure to help customers measure and reduce cyber risk. One of the things that I'd like to sort of emphasize as well is that something that Saab picked up about the responsibility and accountability of installers. So this is where we see one of the potential risks, is that installers clearly are not cybersecurity specialists, and clearly they shouldn't need to be cybersecurity specialists, but at some point, once the devices are installed, they should be connected to some kind of monitoring and surveillance platform, so that then cybersecurity specialists can be brought in to start looking at what that estate and what potential vulnerabilities are potentially there already or could be potentially exploited at some point. And then this talk today is all about what the future looks like. So, you know, we are, although quite advanced and quite sophisticated, I still think we're at the sort of embryonic element or stage of our evolution, and there will be more advanced modern security capabilities being developed all the time with our data science teams and AI and machine learning teams. So it's an exciting area to be in, and one that it'd be great if we can you know, help anyone else in any other industry, particularly in the fire industry. I guess any questions at this point?
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Ian. Again, I have questions of my own, but I should really open up to everyone else firstly. And we normally have this gap, so that gives me an opportunity to jump in with my questions first of all. So you mentioned about there's an opportunity for ongoing monitoring, but equally I assume some customers may just have a point-in-time audit. You referenced that. If people are just having an audit, what kind of frequency would you recommend that audit occurs? Obviously, that is just a point in time, and it's an ongoing threat, potentially, cyber risk.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you look at the history of how everything has evolved, most companies would have done, like you've just said, it would be like manual audits, or there might be some capability of extracting asset information, inventory capability, and they may take those snapshots every month, every quarter, every half year, every year, annual sort of snapshots. But clearly, as cyber security exploitation has increased significantly, I just don't think that's fit for purpose anymore. I think organizations have to, worst case scenario, weekly scanning and look at their weekly inventory of devices so that they know where those vulnerabilities sit, and they'll also have some proactive capabilities so that, you know, that there is an AI and machine learning capability in which it's actually reporting back to any potential outdated firmware, outdated, you know, operating systems, or anything that sits in their estate that can actually flag potential opportunities for exploitation.
I suppose, yeah, it's a case of literally risk assessing the threat model and what the level of attack surface is, and then kind of making a decision based on that as to whether, well, as we'd recommend, ongoing constant monitoring instead of just point in time audit or assessment, I suppose.
But yeah, definitely. And I think that's where systems, you know, like Maccloud, and, you know, we're not the only company doing this, you know, there are other companies. So I'm only saying that, you know, there has to be the kind of approach that Maccloud have developed and are taking. Similarly, other organizations have to follow a similar kind of journey, you know, where they have more visibility of all of the estate that they're having to support, and then having the opportunity to have systems using AI and machine learning to better understand where those potential vulnerabilities sit in their estate so that they can act on them. You know, and not all systems have to be patched immediately. You know, that's where these systems, and then actually reaching into the risk-based kind of approach, where you're starting to see, well, which vulnerabilities are actually being exploited at the moment, and what are the chances of those vulnerabilities being exploited anyway. But you need systems to help you make those decisions, because the data that's collected by doing daily, you know, 24/7 monitoring becomes a significant amount of data, and that's where you start to need more sophisticated tools to help you better understand and analyze where the risks lie, because of the sheer volume of data that sits there. I know in last month's conversations we had, I talked to the group around what we're doing also around helping security operations center analysts. So what we've created as well is an AI capability that can identify the threat, classify the threat, add context to the threat, and just give SOC analysts a heads up as to what the threat looks like. And it could either be you know, false positives, or giving immediate detection of a impending threat that could be quite severe. At the moment, most SOC analysts only get to see all alerts that are raised by security surveillance systems or security information event management systems. So it becomes too overwhelming, the amount of alerts that humans have to look at, and hence why the only way you can actually really get on top of these problems is using more sophisticated tools like AI and machine learning. You still need people at the end of the day, but you need tools to help the people do a better job and be more effective as well.
No, cheers for that. That more than answers my question. I've got limited experience of monitoring servers, whether it be on-prem or cloud-based, and that's a challenge. So yeah, as you say, when you're monitoring multiple data points, it becomes overwhelming. But yeah, I don't want to just be based on me. I know, Saab, you've got your hand up, so I'll let you ask away.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much for that, Ian. I was just going to agree with a point that you made and back it up as well. And what you said, I think the current statistics are still showing that it takes on average 274 days for an attacker to be recognized on the network. And that emphasizes the importance of monitoring and detection. I'm doing a presentation tomorrow at the IoTSF conference, which is on cybersecurity standards and standards at the moment. My talk is around the idea that standards around cybersecurity are not fit for purpose. Part of the reason is that I've mapped some of them, and the NIST one, it talks about 5 functions, which is assess, prevent, detect, respond, and recover. And many of the controls are in the prevent. Detect controls are very few and far between. And most of the controls that they look at under detect are all around log files. So my point that I was going to make was to agree with Ian and yourself that when you're trying to detect things on your network, you can't be looking at day-old, weeks-old log files. They're useful for comparing what's going on now, but they won't tell you what's happening right now. So you need to know what's happening on your network right now so you can detect things as they happen, not after they've happened. And then people have had, the attackers had a chance to hide within your network so that you won't pick them up. Very, very important.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Saab. I could probably continue bombarding loads of questions, but I'm conscious of time, and there's still a few more items on the agenda. But are there any other questions for Ian before we move forward?
Just one more comment. Ian mentioned the awards that his company had got. I just want to mention that the Code of Practice is an award-winning Code of Practice, and I don't say this lightly, and Stephen knows. I did recommend, because I do sit on several judging bodies, think documents. If you come up with a document and it has a big impact, and I've often said when I speak about the Code of Practice, it's one of the most important documents I've seen in a long time, and I wasn't saying that lightly when I've said it in the past, and I would still say that to you today. It is an award-winning document. It's very important. There's a lot to be said for it. The IOTSF have got a document that I'm again going to be talking about tomorrow, which is for facilities teams within smart buildings or built environments, whatever. So if you're looking for a guidance document around the various technologies around smart buildings and built environments, this document will be coming out. So do sort of look out for that.
Brilliant. Yeah,
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other points before we move forward? In which case, Ian, thank you very much. Fantastic.
Thank you again. Yeah. And just quickly, Saab, what time are you talking tomorrow? Because I'm virtually watching the event because I couldn't get there physically to London. But
if you're virtual, you'll only be able to catch the 2 keynotes. Okay. There's a morning keynote, afternoon keynote. I'm speaking in the morning around the facilities document. Then I'm leading and doing the standards talk in the afternoon. That's going to be presented. So if you, I think it's I can't remember. In fact, give me 1 second.
It's okay. Okay. I'll have a look at the itinerary and see what I can do.
Yep, it's at 3 o'clock. 3:30. Sorry.
Perfect. Cheers, Saab. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you. Yeah, and again, massive thanks to yourself, Ian. Really good presentation on that. So
no problem.
Okay, unless there's any other questions on that, moving forward, I think the next item we've got, Adam, is Council Liaison updates. So previously we were reaching out to Council Liaison for verbal updates, and that didn't really get a massive response, to be discreet. So yeah, we kind of asked for digital reports. I'm not sure how that's going. Have we had any submitted? I presume not, possibly.
No, I haven't had any submissions from people via email in spite of chasing them.
Yeah, so this is an ongoing thing. We do want to, the main reason for the council liaison is so, yeah, we can report on relevant activities within the various different FIA councils that are relevant to this particular forum, but equally in reverse, so we can report on what the forum's activities are to the various different councils. It does reach across multiple different councils, the activities within here. So we don't want to be replicating work, and we do want to make sure that everybody's aware of what's going on. So I will open up in case there is anybody present who is either a council liaison or maybe is just present on one of the councils who does have relevant
Andy, it's Dave Matthews, if I come from Fire Easter.
Please, Yeah, cheers. Dave.
Yeah, apologies because I've only just got back from a week's ISO meetings in Switzerland, so we'll try and do something to present properly next time. I mean, my background is health and safety advisor to the Labour Party, chair of the Fire Service Health and Safety Advisory Board, but mainly I'm responsible for UK CEN and ISO standardisation for all PPE. So it's a vast area. We've had, with the UK leaving the EU, and it's created UKCA. But of course, we're still full members of CEN-CENELEC. So whilst we've left the EU, we're still in CEN-CENELEC. Hopefully that will continue. There's some mutins around the government conference this week, whether that'll change things. And presently I'm working on the first ever ISO standard for CBRN for first responders. And we've seen tragically some of the attacks in Ukraine of being CBRN agents challenging the fire services, etc. So if anybody wants anything on PPE, that's my speciality. Just a couple of things to report. Fire ESO Chair Bernie Higgins is recently trying to get a contamination study looked at the Fire Service College. There's a massive issue around cancer of emergency service workers and firefighters. So I'm going to work with Bernie and try and get that one at the college. There is a big study being done by UCLan, the University of Central Lancashire, on behalf of the Fire Brigade Union. But we're looking to try and do more on that. Obviously, we've just held the Emergency Services Show at the NEC Birmingham, which was really well attended after the COVID and not so many conferences. And then finally, the good news for Dr. David Smith is that he's leaving FIA. That's good for him. It's not good for us as FIA, but David's moving on. He's got himself a good job. So I presume FIA will be put in process to replace David. So that's a quick update just about where we are. Next time I'll make sure I put some in writing, Andy.
Don't worry. No, appreciate that. Even a verbal update's absolutely fine. So no, I appreciate that. Definitely. And yeah, we wish Dave all the best of luck as well moving forward. Jason, I noticed your camera's on.
Yes, yeah. So obviously I represent the Services Council or the Liaison. Yeah, apologies, Adam, I sent you a verbal email. Nothing really to report. The last meeting was on the 7th of September. Nothing really to report either way. Our next meeting is on the 23rd of November, which I am expecting our draft of the fact file to be done by then. So we should have some information to pass along, but at the moment, nothing to report.
That's fine. Yeah, no, appreciate that. Brilliant. We'll look in. Obviously, if there is anybody else from any other councils who have any relevant IoT relevant specific, and I know there's a number of us on here from FD&A as well. So there's a few bits and bobs potentially that we need to keep an eye on within the working groups that may have relevance as well. But we just need to keep that liaison going on. So we don't replicate any work and we can report on that. So yeah, I think we're moving on to any other business really. So Adam.
Just from the forum side, so we had the news about Jason Hill becoming the vice chair, but I also had a great call with Brian Cunningham, who was running in a head-to-head against Jason. And there's a whole host of things that Brian will be doing moving forward with the forum. Namely, he's going to be our Euralarm liaison, as he's doing a lot of work with Euralarm in and around this area. And he's also going to be joining the Cybersecurity task group, presenting in future forums, and maybe even doing some workshops and reporting back as to how they go. So massive thanks to Brian for adding some functions that we didn't have before. Really appreciate it.
I echo that. Yeah, massive thanks to Brian on that. Welcome all the support we can get on this. I'll open up to any other business from anybody else before we hand over to Adam. I know who wants to hang fire at Adam Taylor Drake. Lots of Adams on here. Adam Taylor Drake, who wants to hang fire just with any cyber working group members on dates and such like. David.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, just a quick one from me to say that Carlos Perez has joined BSI in my previous role, heading up IoT and digital and cyber certification. He was with us, but he had to drop out. I think he just messaged me in the background. He had to drop out. I had hoped to introduce him personally. He comes to us from DECRA, another global certification body where he was head of their IoT, looking right the way across, not just cyber, but right the way across the IoT, and brings a wealth of knowledge and will continue the direct involvement. I will still be involved, certainly with the marketing and the outward facing side of things in my new role as overall head of digital trust assurance within BSI. But Carlos and Tolga will be continuing to support directly with the initiative we've got going around, particularly now, Adam, as I can see we're moving from, yes, we've got something here on consumer, we've been making a lot of developments around industrial IoT, this kind of thing then as well. So Carlos will be taking that forward. Apologies, he's not right here now. He was here for the majority of the call today. So thank you for giving me so much of your time over the last year, 18 months, and I will continue to be working with you guys to support as well, but I just had to introduce Carlos. So yeah, that's the update from me.
Brilliant.
Thank you for your time, David.
Anybody else for any other business? No.
Hi, it's Mike Slater.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Mike.
Hello. Hi. Just wanted to give a little update. This is the fire industry, obviously. So I just wanted to let people know that there's some clauses probably going into the new industrial fire alarm standards, Part 1. Everybody knows those. Part 8, which is the public address and voice alarm side of things, and the revision of Part 9, which is emergency voice communication systems. So it's only a small paragraph, and it will just raise the issue of cybersecurity and point people in the direction of the National Cybersecurity Centre. But obviously this is going to have to develop, and if they get, obviously somebody from BSI will need to reference the work that they're doing within the standards in the next revision, which is probably 4 or 5 years away now. But yeah, if anyone's on those BSI committees, just like to know what's happening with certainly with the Part 1, as to whether the cybersecurity that's been proposed is going into the next revision.
Yeah, we can certainly reach out. It's possibly one for FD&A. I think there's a few members of an FD&A who are part of Part 1 and Part 8 and Part 9. So yeah, that's definitely one to follow up on. I'll make a note of that as an action to do, unless anybody's got any input on that on the call.
No, all I was going to say, thanks, Mike. Yeah, I recommended some updates as well to BS 5839 Part 1 as well, to do with digital records. So it'd be interesting to see if that's made its way forward. I've not had any update since we did that. I know an email document was circulated, an Excel spreadsheet. All the members put recommendations. I think that went to possibly Neil Budd.
Yeah, that was a public consultation.
That's it, but I haven't heard anything since. So yeah, an update would be great, and if we can probably gather one for the next meeting.
Yeah, I've written that as an action for me to chase up on.
Great.
So Part 8 and Part 9 will be going ahead. I'm on the BSI committee for Part 8 and Part 9, but
on just Part 1 and sure. Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Brilliant. And equally, in a couple of years' time, I'll be interested in Part 6. So yeah, relevant to all of us. Any other business of anyone else? In which case, I would like to thank our 2 presenters for still on the call. So Ian and Saab. Yeah, fantastic presentations. Really appreciate you taking the time out. Yeah, loads to think about. And I know both kindly said you'd share links to some of the things you referenced in them, which will, of course, well Adam more kindly distribute. So yeah, thank you to you both, and thank you to everybody for attending, as always. again, just quickly reach out. There's always the opportunity for future presentations, so please let us know if that's of interest. Same with the working groups, task groups, if that's of interest, where we've got the digital logbook or the cyber. They're open, welcoming participants from everybody. Brendan, I noticed you got your hand up. I'm not sure if that's something I missed earlier or just recently. No.
Hang on.
Sorry there, it was the clapping symbol.
Ah, yes, absolutely
sorry.
fine. No problem at all. I just wasn't sure if that was a final little squeeze in an AOB. That's
Yeah, no,
absolutely
that's
fine.
all it was. It was
Appreciate
clapping.
it. No.
Thank you.
No, applause to everyone. Yeah, so thank you for everyone's participation. Yeah, and those who are interested to Adam Taylor Drake with the cyber group, please hang fire at the end of this call, just to arrange dates and agree on that. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you very much.
Cheers all.
Thank you. Bye.
Now we see how many people are left. Who have we got?
That's what I'm wondering. How many?
Steve.
You might attract a few more members. You never know.
It's always
Thanks,
interesting to see
Brian.
who's gone to the toilet and not left the call.
Yeah. Well, there's quite a few. Oh, Peter's gone. Yeah. Yes, Peter must be. So we've got Mike, Brian. I see Rob Yates. Is he left or is he there? Rob Yates is gone. So is everyone still on the call interested in joining the task group then? Got some new names. So we've got Carrie Hendricks on the screen, but there's two people there. Who we got in that call?
Yeah, my name's Ian Kerr. I'm the Managing Director of ID Cyber Solutions. The questions, just to give us a starting point that was sent down to you referenced earlier, the main thrust of these questions was for this course that we're designing for installers is to guide them towards cyber essentials, albeit not to make it sort of obvious, but in direct relationship to the practicalities of the job.
Yeah, great. Sorry, Carrie, I didn't mean to
No, it's okay.
interrupt you. This was just to organise a meeting for the task group. I'm conscious everyone has probably got other things they need to run off to quickly.
Yeah,
but yeah, we can definitely, we need to catch up at some other point. So is everyone on the call now interested in participating? Apart from yourselves, obviously, you're welcome to join for the next one. But we've got Peter, we've got W. Ellis on my screen.
That's it. That's for me.
I would treat silence as a yes, Adam.
Yeah, fantastic.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Take them while you can. If they're not going to say no, then that's acceptance.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, I'll have to maybe Adam, you could help me with capturing the email addresses for these new people here, and I'll add them to the distribution. But fantastic. Yeah. So I think normally I'd like to give a month's notice or so, but because mainly my fault, it's been quite a while since the last meeting. How are people fixed for availability next week? We can have a special meeting, if you like, a shorter meeting, just to discuss the questions and get those agreed, and then we can get them off to Adam and get them progressed. So next week, I mean, Monday through to Thursday, there's a slot in my calendar from 11 o'clock onwards for the whole day. So does that work for anybody, or does that not work for anybody?
Well, British Standards have cancelled drafting meeting on Wednesday between 10-12.
10-12, perfect. That works for me. Any objections to 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. on Wednesday the 12th October?
I can't do that, but that's all right. Don't worry.
equally, I can't do that either. That's
Okay.
fine. I'll fit in future meetings. It's not a problem.
Okay. Are there any other days this week that more people can attend? How about Tuesday?
So next week, 2